My name is Riley Morgan, and I thought I knew the man I married. Derek was charming, successful, the kind of guy who could make a whole room laugh. And I was the quiet one, the planner, the fixer. But on that blazing hot afternoon in the Arizona, desert with the sun beating down and no one around for miles, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know him at all. What started as a petty argument ended with tire tracks in the sand. And my husband speeding away with his buddies, laughing as he left me stranded. No phone, no water, no way back. "Let's see how she gets out of this one," they joked. But they had no idea that this moment of betrayal would be the last time he ever saw me the same way again. Before we begin, I just want to thank you for being here. If stories about women rising stronger from the ashes of betrayal speak to your soul, consider subscribing. It's free, and it helps share more voices like mine. Now, let me take you back to the moment my world cracked open. Because what Derek meant to break me became the very thing that set me free. I'm not exactly sure when the laughter faded. Maybe it was the second the dust from their tires settled in the scorching air. Or maybe it was the moment I realized they weren't circling back. One second, I was arguing with Derek about something stupid. His drinking, his friends, the fact that I didn't want to be in the damn desert in the first place, and the next, I was standing alone on a cracked patch of earth in the middle of nowhere, watching a trail of dust stretch toward the horizon. He actually left me. I kept expecting it to be a joke. Any minute now, they'd whip the SUV around, laughing their asses off. Gotcha, like they'd done on every trip since college. But that minute never came. The only sound was the wind scraping through dead brush and the distant hum of heat. Rising off the sand, they'd taken everything, my phone, my purse, even my water bottle. Derek had offered to hold them, so I wouldn't drop them while climbing out of the Jeep. How thoughtful. It was supposed to be a guy's trip. I wasn't even invited at first. Derek had sprung it on me last minute, said one of the girlfriends. Dropped out and there was space. "It'll be good for you to loosen up," he said. "You're always so uptight lately." Translation. I'd started asking questions about his drinking, about our finances, about why I always felt like a guest in my own life. I should have said no. But I missed us. Or maybe I just missed who I thought we used to be. The desert heat pressed in from every direction. My throat was dry within minutes. I scanned the horizon for any sign of civilization, but there was nothing but red dust and rock. I didn't even know what part of Arizona we were in. We'd driven hours out, from Sedona. Derek playing DJ and pounding beers in the passenger seat, while his friend Mason drove like a maniac through narrow, winding roads. I'd tuned them out, trying not to get carsick. Now I was alone, and they were gone. I started walking. I didn't know where I was going, only that standing still felt like giving up. My flip-flops weren't meant for hiking, but they were all I had, my skin already burned under the sun. The water Derek had safely packed was probably in the cooler, right next to his IPAs. I thought about the last thing he said before the Jeep door slammed. "You'll figure it out, Riley. You always do. Let's see how Miss Perfect handles this." His friends had laughed like it was a prank show. I wonder if they're still laughing now. After what felt like hours, my legs gave out. I dropped to the ground near a dried-out bush and stared up at the sky. There was no signal, no road, no way to flag anyone down. I thought I'd cry, but the tears wouldn't come. My body was too busy trying to survive. I don't know how long I sat there, dazed, when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. For one wild second, I thought it was them, coming back. It wasn't. An old pickup truck slowed to a stop a few yards away. I barely had the strength to raise my hand. The woman who got out was maybe in her 60s, sturdy, sun-worn, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. Her face crinkled with concern as she approached me. "Sweetheart, are you all right?" she asked, her voice cutting through the heat like water. I couldn't speak. Just nodded, barely. She helped me into the truck and handed me a bottle of lukewarm water that tasted like salvation. I chugged half of it before finally finding my voice. "My husband left me," I whispered, not even believing it myself. "He left me out here." Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing, just kept driving until we reached a weather-beaten ranch house nestled at the edge of a canyon. Inside, everything smelled like sage and warm bread. Her husband, a quiet man with silver hair and oil-stained hands, nodded once when she brought me in, then returned to fixing something in the corner. "Name's Maggie," she said. "That's Roy. You can stay here tonight. Bathroom's through there. We'll figure out what comes next tomorrow." That night, I stared at the ceiling of the guest room, wrapped in a quilt that smelled like old cedar and fresh air. My body ached, my feet were blistered, and my heart, God, my heart was in pieces. But in the stillness, beneath all that hurt, was something else. Not strength yet, not peace, but space. Space to breathe. Space to ask a question I hadn't dared ask in years. Who am I without Derek? I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out. Maggie didn't ask many questions that first night, and I was grateful for that. She just let me be, fed me, gave me clean clothes, and showed me where the extra blankets were kept. In the morning, I woke to the yaw. Sound of roosters and the smell of fresh coffee drifting in from the kitchen. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the pain came rushing back, as if my body remembered before my mind did. Still, I got up. Because what else could I do? Maggie was at the kitchen table, sipping coffee from a chipped blue mug. Roy was already outside, feeding the animals. She looked up and smiled when she saw me, her eyes soft but knowing. "You hungry?" I nodded, sitting down at the table like I belonged there. We didn't talk much over breakfast. She made scrambled eggs and toast with homemade jam, and I ate like someone who hadn't seen real food in days. Because, well, I hadn't. After a while, she glanced at me over her cup and said, "You're welcome to stay a couple days. Roy could use help fixing up the barn if you're up for it." I blinked. "You're offering me work?" She shrugged. "I find it helps, doing something with your hands when your heart's all tangled up. And that's how I ended up spending the next 3 days mucking out stables, oiling old hinges, and hauling feed across dusty yards with a woman who barely spoke but somehow understood everything. Before we continue the story, I want to take a moment to connect with you. Yes, you. The amazing person listening to this. Where are you watching from? Drop the flag of your country in the comments below. I know some of you might be watching this alone, maybe even with a heavy heart. If that's you, I just want to remind you, you're not alone. Not right now. I'm right here, telling this story with you. Back at the ranch, something unexpected was happening. Each day I worked, I felt a little less broken. The rawness in my chest dulled, replaced by muscle aches and sunburns. I started sleeping through the night. I even caught myself laughing once when Roy handed me a crooked hammer and said, "Be careful, this one bites." But the real shift happened on the 5th day. Maggie and I were sitting on the porch, sipping iced tea as the sun dipped behind the canyon. I'd just finished painting one of the outbuildings a pale desert blue, and my arms were speckled with drops of color. She handed me a notebook, plain, spiral-bound, pages worn. "What's this?" I asked. "I saw you sketching on that napkin earlier," she said. "Figured you might want something more permanent." I stared down at it, blinking back tears. It had been years since I'd drawn anything for myself. Years since I'd let myself even think about design. Before Derek, I was an event planner in Los Angeles. Good at it, too. I built spaces from nothing. I knew how to turn a barren hotel ballroom into a dream wedding or a rustic barn into a film premiere. But when Derek's startup took off, I stepped back. "Let's simplify," he'd said. "You don't need to work. We're building a life, remember?" And I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to. But that night, on Maggie's porch, I opened the notebook and started sketching again. At first, it was nothing. Just a corner of a room, a hanging light fixture, a color palette that reminded me of the canyon walls. But the lines kept flowing, like my hands remembered a language my heart had forgotten. By the end of the week, I knew I couldn't stay forever. Maggie and Roy had their routines, their quiet lives. They'd saved me, yes, but this wasn't where my story ended. Maggie beat me to it. "There's a town up north," she said one morning while we were feeding the chickens. "Mountain Ridge. Small, artsy, gets a lot of foot traffic in the summer. They do a festival every year. Big one. You might want to check it out." "How do you know I'm ready?" I asked. She looked me dead in the eye. "Because you're asking." The next day, she packed me a cooler with sandwiches and fruit, handed me the keys to her old Jeep, "Just until you get settled," and hugged me goodbye like we'd known each other our whole lives. As I pulled away from that little ranch house, I looked in the rearview mirror. Not for Derek, not for the girl I used to be, but for the woman I was becoming. The one who had been buried under years of quiet compromise and was finally clawing her way back into the light. I didn't know what I'd find in Mountain Ridge, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to find out. The email came late in the afternoon, just as I was stacking hand-painted signs for the festival near the town square. My hands were covered in flecks of blue and green paint, the kind that would take days to scrub off completely. I only checked my laptop because I needed to confirm a delivery. But there it was, his name, Derek. I froze when I saw it. Not because I was afraid, but because I hadn't heard from him in weeks. Not since the day he'd driven away and left me in the desert like some inconvenient piece of luggage. The message was short, cold, and unmistakably him. He said he'd finally figured out where I was, that he'd spent weeks and a lot of money on a private investigator, that he was flying into Denver on Thursday, renting a car, and expected me to be ready to leave with him. No questions, no apology, just an order. I read it twice to be sure I wasn't misunderstanding. But there it was in black and white. Derek was coming to bring me home. For a long moment, I just sat there, the cursor blinking like a dare. He still didn't get it. After everything, he still believed I was waiting for him, that I'd been lost without him, that I needed rescuing. But I wasn't lost. I was rebuilding. I closed the laptop and stepped outside. The air smelled like pine and sawdust, and in the distance, the mountains rose like guardians watching over everything I was slowly creating. The streets of Mountain Ridge were coming alive for the summer festival, bunting strung across lampposts, families gathering for rehearsals, artists hauling their work into the gallery. It was quiet, small, but full of purpose. And for the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Let Derek come. Let him see who I was now. Not the version of me he could manipulate, dismiss, or control, but the woman who had scraped herself off the floor of a stranger's ranch house, who had driven into the mountains with nothing but a cooler of sandwiches and a sliver of self-belief and built a new life from the rubble. This time, I wasn't going anywhere. Thursday came wrapped in the kind of perfect summer weather that almost felt staged. Clear skies, warm sun, and a soft breeze drifting through. The pine trees. I spent the morning helping Claire set up the final elements of the festival. Children ran past with streamers, vendors arranged handmade goods on linen-covered tables, and laughter floated on the air like music. But beneath all of that, my body thrummed with a low, steady tension. I knew he was coming. When the black SUV pulled into the gravel parking lot just after noon, I didn't need to see the driver's face to know it was him. Derek always had a thing for flashy rentals, even in Bao. Places where they looked ridiculous. He stepped out wearing designer sunglasses, crisp slacks, and the kind of button-down shirt that made him stand out like a sore thumb among the flannel and denim of Mountain Ridge. He spotted me almost instantly and strode over like nothing had changed, like we'd simply had a fight that needed resolving, like I hadn't been left to rot in the desert. "Riley," he said, smiling like he owned the world. "God, look at you. What the hell are you wearing?" I glanced down at my worn jeans, dust-covered boots, and the festival t-shirt someone had given me that morning. I looked exactly like someone who had earned every inch of peace she was standing on. "You came," I said evenly, not moving toward him. "Of course I came. I'm here to take you home. Enough of this little adventure." He said it like I'd gone off to find myself in Europe with a backpack and a journal, like this was some phase he could just interrupt with a plane ticket. "I'm already home, Derek," I replied. His smile faded slightly. "Come on, Riley, be serious. You don't belong here with these people, this town, these mountains. You've made your point. Let's go." "I'm not going anywhere with you." He stepped closer. "I forgave you, you know, for walking away, for disappearing. I'm willing to put this behind us if you are." I almost laughed. "You forgave me?" He didn't hear the danger in my voice. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. That was always his way. Rewrite the narrative until he could live with it. "You left me in the desert, Derek," I said. "On purpose, as a joke." He rolled his eyes. "I was drunk." "We were all drunk. You take things so seriously. You always have. And you never take anything seriously, including me." For a moment, he said nothing. Then his voice dropped. "So what? This is your life now? Festivals? Craft fairs? Living. Like some mountain hippie?" I took a slow breath and looked around. "Yes," I said. "This is my life now. And for the first time in years, it's mine." Derek's face tightened, his charm gone. "You're making a mistake. You think you're strong now, but give it a few months. When the novelty wears off, when you realize you threw away everything we built, don't come crawling back." Stepped forward, close enough for him to really see me. Sunburned, paint-smeared, and steady. "I didn't throw anything away," I said quietly. "You did. When you decided I wasn't a partner. When you turned me into a passenger. When you laughed and drove off." He stared at me, waiting. For what, I wasn't sure. Maybe for me to crack, to fold? But I didn't. Instead, I reached into my canvas bag and handed him a manila envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Divorce papers. Already signed. You'll find the settlement fair." His eyes scanned the first page, his mouth opening and closing like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "You're not thinking clearly." "No, Derek. For the first time I am." Behind me, the festival drums started. A rhythm rising through the trees, pulsing with life. I turned without another word and walked back toward the square, where children were dancing and music was echoing through the mountains. I didn't look back. Let him carry that envelope all the way home, wherever that was now, because I wasn't going back to the life I had before. I was building something new, stronger, simpler, free, and this time, no one was going to take it from me. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about reclaiming your worth, your voice, and the life you were meant to live. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to us becomes the turning point that sets us free. Riley's journey reminds us that real strength is built one choice at a time. If this story resonated with you, comment the number 2. If it didn't, feel free to drop a 7. Every opinion is welcome here. And if you'd like to hear more powerful stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I can't wait to read your thoughts below.